You're listening to One Free Family, a new take on peaceful parenting, where you can hear ideas for helping to raise free, independent, and peaceful children. Visit onefreefamily.com to connect and listen. Here are your hosts, James and Taylor Davis.
And we're back with another episode of One Free Family. This is James.
And Taylor.
And we have a the most special guest ever on the One Free Family podcast.
I think it is the very first guest we've ever had and probably will remain the very most special no matter what happens.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a tie in the future, but why don't we give it away? Who are you, special guest?
I'm Oliver.
Oliver, otherwise known as Ollie. And what happened tonight was Ollie's been staying up a little bit later, and tonight decided that he wasn't tired and we still need to record a podcast.
So we are going to interview him.
Yeah. So you pumped, Ollie, to talk about yourself and your life and everything we're doing here?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll dive into that in 1 second. Before we jump into the big interview, we want to say thank you so much. We actually have 3 new patrons to the show, which is a world record for us.
So exciting.
For most patrons between episodes. So I want to say thank you so much to Sarah, who pledged $5 a month, and Christine and Paula, who pledged $2 a month. That was super, super kind of you all. And every dollar just makes such a big difference, both to the behind the scenes folks, and then eventually, we might even be able to get a little cash for our time on this podcast. You're making a face.
I hadn't really thought about that.
I hadn't either, but I didn't expect us to have so many lovely patrons who like to help us. Taylor's rolling her eyes. And one of our family traditions that you guys don't know about yet is sometimes when I troll Taylor.
That's not what I was going to say.
Well, I was going to say sometimes Taylor rolls her eyes at me, but sometimes when I troll Taylor, then the big boys come and tickle and slap me. And Ollie is trying to do that right now.
So much for the non-aggression principle.
Yeah. But that's okay.
But for real, we are really, really grateful to our new patrons and also to all the other patrons who continue to be patrons. Yeah, it's just, as I always say, it's just really motivating and inspiring to have all of you rally behind us and support the work that we're doing.
Awesome. All right, so we'll see.
Oh, wait, I was going to say one more thing,
Please,
too.
go.
If you don't follow us anywhere on social media, you will not have seen that I had the opportunity and the honor to be a guest on the podcast of my friend Rachel Rainbolt, and her podcast is the Sage Family Podcast. So she released that episode earlier this week. We talked about natural math learning because, in case you don't know, I did used to be a math teacher. So that was one of the reasons that she decided I would talk about math with her. And it was just a really fun conversation. We dove into what natural math learning looks like and how that looks in our home and in her home. And we talked about worries about quote unquote gaps in learning and all sorts of fun things. So if you're interested in that, definitely go check out her Sage Family Podcast. You can find her at sageparenting.com. And get ready because you might need to binge listen to all of her other episodes too. So another great podcast for you.
Cool. I actually haven't listened to that yet, and I am excited.
Yeah,
you should. Do that perhaps on our drive for our big camping trip. So, Ollie, I think probably Mom was talking to Rachel a lot about your math stuff. Have you ever been to a math class before?
No.
No? Are you able to do any math at all?
Yes.
Really? Why? How? How does that work? How did you learn math?
By learning math.
Well, is there math in any parts of your life that you do frequently? Like, is there ever times where you have to add things up or subtract them or multiply them or anything like that?
Yeah. Want to play video games.
Oh, like which video games involve math for you?
A lot of video games like Fortnite and stuff. I like to sometimes count how much health I have combined or...
That makes sense.
How many kills me and my teammate had combined.
Right.
There's a lot of things I do math. I just don't even know how I learned it. I just learned it.
Yeah, a lot of people think math is kind of like a language where if you interact with it enough, all of a sudden you just kind of have a sense for it and an awareness of it. Has that been kind of your experience?
Yeah.
And sometimes when we drive around in the car, you even ask for math problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of math problems have we been doing recently? Do you remember?
I forget the name.
Can you give an example of one? Do you remember?
What's 20 plus x equals 30?
Me? X equals 10. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'll give you one. What 20 minus 2x equals 8. What is x?
6.
6. Well
X
done.
equals 6.
Yeah, X equals 6. So we've been doing fun little algebra stuff, but so that's our little warm up. So are you ready to get some questions about your life and how it goes?
All right, let's do it.
Cool. So, well, first of all, I mean, you mentioned video games before. What are some of your favorite things to do right now?
There's a lot of things I do. I sometimes play outside with my friends. I play on my computer a lot. That's really...
Those are the two main things that come to mind right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go travel to see our friends elsewhere. Actually, one of the things concerns a lot of people who don't send their kids to school, or I'm sorry, a lot of people's concern about not sending kids to school is that they'll have difficulty finding and making friends. What's been your experience with friends and things?
Well, really, I just made friends over time. Sometimes I go to the park and make a new friend.
Yeah, that's true. You do.
Who do you hang out with the most these days? You can
Besides, like, us and your family.
Yeah, you don't even have to say their names, but like, where are how did you meet the friends you hang out with the most?
They're our neighbors.
Yeah, they live right next door to us, right?
They live in the world with us. Yes. So, Ollie, what do you think in general about not going to school? Like, what do you think when people ask you about school? How does that feel for you?
Sometimes I get scared.
How come?
I just I don't want people to think that I go to school.
Oh, like you don't want people to assume that you go to school.
Yeah.
Okay. So when people ask you about school or ask you something like, what school do you go to or what grade are you in, what do you say to them?
I say, I don't go to school.
And then they usually say what? Like, remember at the farmer's market yesterday? The lady was like, oh, so you're homeschooled? You guys do school at home?
And then what do you say?
No, we don't do school.
Yeah.
No, we don't do
and that
school.
was pretty confusing for that lady. But it is funny. Like, I think this happened at soccer, too. People
a couple years ago at soccer, yeah.
People just assume that you're schooled, but that sometimes feels uncomfortable for you, you're saying?
I just don't like it. I don't know. It just doesn't make me feel right.
Just because it doesn't describe your life accurately?
And I just don't want people to think that.
I got you.
And I kind of get scared when they ask that. Like when we were at camp, I got really scared for somebody to think I was in one of the groups.
Do you think it's because you just want people to understand the truth about you?
Yeah, and it's just because I don't really know how to answer them when I don't, and when my answer is just unexpected.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, this is a good thing to have a conversation about. And I think we've mentioned it before, but this might be helpful to other kids and parents who might be listening who don't send their kids to school, like how to help your kids answer questions about school. So remember how I've said to you, like, if you want to, sometimes you can just say to people, like, oh, I'm homeschooled, because people generally understand the idea of homeschooling. But if you want to be, like, more specific, then you can just say, I just learned by living my life, something like that.
Usually when people ask me, what school do you go to? I say, I don't go to school. And then they say, well, what grade are you in? I say, we don't do grades.
There we go.
That's true. So if you don't go to school and we don't do grades, like, how do you actually learn things? Like, because when people meet you, you're not just like,
knowing anything.
Some kind of lump who just lies on the ground not knowing anything at all.
Yeah, I don't go, well, I can't really talk.
So how would you tell people that you learn things?
I just, learn things by people teaching me things without them being really instructed. Sometimes ask about things and I learn and once I learned all the basic things in life.
Yeah.
I started to love playing video games.
Uh-huh.
And then I kind of learned how to read from playing video games, from watching videos. I kind of just did it all naturally.
Totally.
And so when you really want to improve at something, though, because, for instance, me and Mommy aren't expert Fortnite players, let's say, right? When you wanted
I don't know, I'm pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Mommy is
whatever.
kind of close to an expert, but I'm still learning. When you
It's
wanted
actually the opposite.
when you wanted to improve at that, what do you do? Like, if you don't go to Fortnite school or anything like that, how have you improved at the things that you do care about learning about?
By doing them.
And how else is there anything else you do to come up with new ideas or get inspired to try new things?
Sometimes watch other players do them.
Like, where do you watch them?
YouTube and Twitch.
Oh, right on. So you found other like expert people online, and you will watch instructional videos sometimes, or just watch them and see what they do and what they talk about?
Yeah.
Another thing I know that you do that I've seen is like you just have a lot of conversations with other people who enjoy the thing that you're trying to get good at. Like you and Daddy will talk a lot about strategies and different things.
Do we? I feel like we never talk about that.
Oh, yeah, no, those conversations never go on in our house.
Yeah, they always
But that's, totally a big part of natural learning.
Sometimes I talk with our neighbors.
Yeah, with the neighbors who you play with too, for sure.
Because
awesome.
they're like at the same skill level as me.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to play with them.
Nice.
Sweet. So what do you think, like obviously a lot of people hear about our life and think it's like kind of unusual, and we spend a lot of time talking about the parts that we think are really great, and sharing why we approach life this way and why we're kind of raising you guys this way. What are some of the hardest ways do you think about, or the hardest things about kind of being unschooled or, not going to school like most kids do?
One of the hardest things is learning how to like do things with other people, but without anybody that you have like a relationship with. You learn that more when you go to school. That's just something that you can only learn. The only way to learn that is by doing it, really.
Oh, so you mean like going places like when you did basketball camp this summer and stuff like that, and it's not our family going out doing something. It's just you and a bunch of other people. Is that what you're saying?
I'm more talking about like somewhere where you guys go and drop me off and then go home and then pick me up.
Yeah.
But with the basketball camp, you stayed there and watched, which just feels different for me, just because I know you're there.
Right on.
Right. So like getting used to the idea of maybe starting to do that feels a little hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see how that goes for you with the thing you're going to try this fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so, I mean, do you feel like that's something that is getting easier over time, or is that kind of like still feeling like a big sticking point? Like
it's gotten a little bit easier. I've just started to understand that if you're with if you're with your friend's parents, like they'll just help you.
Yeah,
Right,
that you can trust other people that we all have decided as a family are trustworthy.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because usually I won't just go somewhere without anyone I know. Maybe
Sure.
like when I went to soccer with Patrick.
Right.
Oh, to his soccer practice?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I felt better because his parents would be there.
Right. And you know them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like kind of our approach to raising you, in some ways, like you haven't had as much practice going off and just like totally being on your own?
Yeah.
Right on. So do you know, I mean, I think we've talked to you about this before, but actually we did try to send you off on your own when you were a baby after mommy had to go back to work.
Yeah.
And it was like so hard. And it was so hard on everyone. You were really, really sad, and we were sad, and it kind of felt wrong. And that was actually one of the first reasons why we started rethinking like how we wanted to parent you. Do you know that, or do you remember that?
I don't remember, but I remember you guys telling me.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, we sent you to, when you were like 5 months old, we started sending you to this woman's house who took care of kids while their parents worked. And you made it very, very clear that you did not like that. And so you kind of taught us that we should probably wait longer until you're ready for something like that, instead of like try to get you to do it before you were ready.
And let me choose if I do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I think...
Not just make me do it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we were in a rush, I feel like, because like a lot of people in our society tell kids and parents that kids should be independent as soon as possible. And like the more quickly you become independent, like the better it is or something. And I think you taught us, because you were so gifted, and you are so gifted in so many different ways. And when that was hard at first, like I think we started to feel worried, but then when we started seeing like, oh, you're actually just a great, special, really unique person, which is that wasn't that interesting for you. We realized, well, why would we just keep forcing him to do that when he doesn't like it, So I wonder if too, like, if there are some kids who are unschooled or, don't have to go to school if they don't want to, if for them going to those things, going out and doing something even without family present, if that's not as hard for them, but that's just like how they are naturally or something. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, it's true that getting independent quick is a good thing, but it's a good thing, but that doesn't make it the most important thing.
What is the most important thing to you when it comes to that?
Really just, like, being yourself. Like, learning things at your own pace, learning things in your own order. Like, not everybody has to learn this first and that last. Everybody can learn different things at different times.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful insight, actually, because, when I was thinking, it's funny because so much of the stress from parenting, you might see this someday if you become a parent, is there are, like, society sort of tells you that kids need to learn things in a certain order. And it's funny because I think some people can get so almost like obsessed with, well, why is my kid this age but doesn't know this specific thing yet? And one of those is like, a baby sleeping through the night, for instance, or can a kid go out and be independent? Some of it is my kid reading yet, or can my kid do math yet? And what we found parenting you guys is people just learn those things in all different orders. Like, you being able to do that math problem earlier, that's called algebra. And given that you just turned 8 years old, there's not a lot of 8-year-old kids that are doing algebra problems in their head. But that's okay, it's different. I think your thing about people learning things in the order that they want is a really, really cool idea.
Yeah, because, like, if you're a parent, you shouldn't be worried if your kid turns 8 that they, like, can't do this thing when all the other kids can. Like, that just doesn't matter. Why doesn't it matter to you? Well, just, like, they don't know that, but maybe they learn something, they know something that other kids aren't going to learn for a while.
Yeah, that totally...
Or just they don't have to learn as quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really think that you, as a baby, really taught us this, and you taught us that, like you said, being yourself and being given space to be yourself is so much more important than many, many other things. Because I think people who get the space to figure out who they truly are just can learn the skills that they need to learn to be happy.
And if you're learning the thing you want to be learning, you're going to learn it quicker.
Has that been your experience? Like when you've tried to spend time learning about things that are really interesting for you, that has come more quickly?
It's definitely come more quickly than me, like, trying to learn something that I'm not actually very interested in. Do you have any examples of that, like, from your life, of trying to learn something that you weren't that interested in, or us kind of, like, pressuring you to try to learn something that you weren't that interested in? I felt like I don't really have examples. That's just my guess on what's probably true. Right. Because you've told me that before. Yeah, I think you're probably right there. Well, I think, too, it's like, most of the things you've that you learned a lot about are just things you liked. So, right. And learning about those things hasn't been that difficult for you. Because I could do my favorite thing to do while learning the thing. Yeah, totally. Awesome. So do you want to be learning? Yeah, for sure. So do you think that you'll ever want to go to school someday? I want to go to, like, college because I can choose what classes I'm in, but I don't think I'll want to go to, like, a school where everybody has to learn the same thing at the same time. What intrigues you about college? That you get to choose what classes you go to. Sweet. And is there, like, anything specific you're thinking about wanting to learn from a college someday? Well, I'm just, like, it's going to be so long till I could go to college that I just have no idea. You don't have your plans. You know what's kind of cool, too, though? A lot of colleges and, like, community colleges will let even younger teenagers come and take some of their classes. So as you get to be, like, a teenager and stuff, if there's things that they're offering that you're interested in, you might even be able to go sit in on some of those. Mm. Cool. Can I ask you a hard question? Yeah. So this is a good one. Has there been anything, like, from your life recently that's been, like, challenging that you've been working on? And it could be challenging, like, trying to improve at something, or, like, something hard that's happened recently, or something, like, kind of interesting that you've been trying to work through. Not really. Nothing comes to mind? No. Cool. I have a question. Yeah, go. What do you think? I know you're only 8, but what do you think you will want to do in terms of, like, raising your kids if you decide to have kids someday? Well, once they can understand everything, the first thing I'm going to ask them is probably, I'm going to teach them about school and ask them if they want to go. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, I'm going to be fine with that. If they do, I'm going to be fine with that. And I'm going to be, like, really open to trying to help them learn things that they want to learn. And helping them, if there's something they want, I'm going to help them find that thing or get that thing. Like, if they really want to do video games and we just don't have a device that's good for that, I might try to save up enough money where I feel like I could do that and then still have enough money to buy the things we need.
That's pretty cool. What do you think, what do you see as like the most important role of the parent?
Supporting your kids in everything they want to do.
That's a good answer. I think that's a really good answer. That's pretty awesome, man. Do you have any more questions that come to mind, T? Oh, I have one more.
Okay, go for it.
So, what's it like being the oldest brother?
Ooh, that's a good question.
In a self-directed learning family? Because, I mean, we're here, the 5 of us are in this house. I mean, we go out and stuff, but
we're together quite a lot.
Mommy and I both work at home. You guys are mostly home. A lot of times the other kids in the neighborhood are at school. You're the oldest brother. What's that experience been like for you? Or how about this? What's the best thing about it, and what's the hardest thing about it?
The hardest thing about it, it's like, it's hard for your younger brothers troll you a lot.
They troll you.
Your younger brothers troll you a lot.
What does trolling mean? Because that's not a term that a lot of people are going to recognize.
Say I'm playing video games with my younger brother, as he's 6. We're playing and he starts using terrible teamwork and doesn't listen to me at all, and it's like purposefully annoying somebody on purpose.
Yeah, that's
trolling, and that can be frustrating for you.
Yeah, but also it's really fun to, like, when I'm a bigger brother, whenever me and Ezzy were playing Fortnite, my even younger brother, Gus, when he says,
you can do his voice.
I wanna play Fortnite on Xbox. That means I wanna play Fortnite on the Xbox. I usually finish up my game and then help him and then keep playing. And it's really fun to play with him, mess around with him in the car sometimes. Like once he kept going, and I repeated everything he said, and he would go, and I would go,
In the car today, yesterday, he said, Ollie, do something funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I just said something random because I knew he would think it was funny.
Yeah, makes sense.
So one concern that some people have about unschooling Ollie is that kids who are unschooled might have a difficult time just like sitting down and like focusing on something, like trying to... You're shaking your head no. Is that not?
Or like persisting when things get hard, kind of?
That's just not true because I can, if I want to do something, I can sit down or start jumping with whatever I'm doing. I can do it consistently. To me, that just doesn't really make sense.
I gotcha. So, I mean, what about when things get really hard? Because I know there was like a stretch recently where you were getting really upset when you were playing video games when it wasn't going your way, but you seem to have kind of like worked through that. Can you talk about what that process was like?
It was really hard because I felt like it was really hard for me to play video games by myself. I wouldn't get as upset when I was playing with somebody else, but when I was just like playing solo by myself, I would get really frustrated even on a death where it was just, I just got outplayed.
So how did you work through it, though?
By focusing on, when I played, focusing on not doing it.
You were like saying you set up a goal for yourself, like, okay, if this game doesn't go the way I hope for it, I'm going to try to use some strategies to like not get as angry or upset?
Not exactly. I just like would kind of get angry. I would try to just be like, oh, good game more, instead of just taking my headphones off and getting upset. And even if I did do that, I would try to like have myself play again, which can make me less upset too.
I got you. Just jump right back in there instead of
getting mad and just making that stop me from doing my favorite thing.
Right. So like you didn't want to sit around just like stewing and feeling angry.
I would try to just play again.
I got you. Cool.
Or start doing something else.
Right on. Do you have any messages for the people out there who are considering trying to give their kids a little bit more self-direction, trying to give their kids more freedom, or anything like that? Anything you want to share with them?
I think that it would actually be much more enjoyable for the parents, and that's really all.
Okay.
I don't have very much to say.
Right on. T, do you have any other thoughts, questions?
Is there anything else that you just want people to know about you? People who are listening?
Usually if I want to do something, I can just do it.
If you want to do something, you could just do it.
They don't need to worry that you're not going to be able to do the things that you want to do?
Well, I'm just saying, like, it can be really happy for parents when they just see their kids having a ton of fun doing their favorite thing and not
true.
Forcing them to only play video games for half an hour a day when it's their favorite thing to do.
I gotcha.
When you think about, like, the kind of person that you want to be and that you're trying to be, what is that like? Like, what do you think about? Like, what's the type of person that you want to be now and as you grow up?
I want to be really kind to people. I want to help people. I want to help people work through things. I want to make people not suicide.
Okay, so it sounds like it really revolves around, like, you just really want to be somebody who supports other people.
I want to be a really good person. I want to be really nice, kind.
Yeah. Daddy and I totally see that from you already. You're like somebody in our family who we can really count on to, like, help take care of everybody. And
if things are hard with the house with my little brothers, I usually just try to... I'm not always like this, but when that's happening, I just get a little bit more serious and just start doing the most helpful thing usually.
Yeah, you do. You even noticed when I was grumpy today, you said, "Mommy, are you having a hard day?" And then you said, "What can I do to help?" Right?
Yeah.
And then I couldn't think of anything at the time, but then in the car I told you later that you just even noticing that and offering to help kind of made me realize that I was acting like a grump, and it helped me get better.
Can I ask you a question, a follow-up question on that? Yeah. You said you wanted to help people not commit suicide someday. Can you tell me more about that? Like, why are you thinking about that? Or, why is that a goal of yours?
I've just seen it. I've heard about it in 2 videos, and it's one of the worst things you can do, and I want to help people not do it.
When you say you heard about it in videos, like, you're saying you heard other people helping people with that? I see. And that you felt like that was, like, a good goal for someday?
Yes.
Interesting. That's really cool. I didn't know that was something you were thinking about.
It's not, like, the main goal. My main goal is just to be a nice and kind person.
No, but it's an incredible goal if you could help save someone's life who's feeling that down in the dumps. So.
Yeah.
And cool. After I did that, I might try to help them, like, have a better life.
Yeah, help them find out ways to, like, start feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, I think if there's nothing else, can't think of anything, then I think we're just about at the end of this interview. So,
do you have any questions you want to ask us?
Yeah, great question.
Before we sign off.
How did you feel when I was so upset when you sent me to daycare?
Oh, that's a really good question.
You can go first.
I felt really awful when we knew that you, like, when it became clear that you didn't like it. And for a while we were kind of, or at least we felt like we were stuck continuing to bring you because I had my job that I couldn't just quit at a moment's notice. And so we had to keep bringing you there, and I had to keep going to work. And I basically thought about you all day long while I was at work, and I would rush out of work as fast as I possibly could to come pick you up again at the end of the day. And really what I was thinking a lot of the time was, like, how can we change our life so this doesn't have to be what we're doing every day, because it's not working for Ollie.
How did you stop doing that? How did you find a new way to get the money you needed? Yeah,
so we decided that because I was a teacher, remember? And school ends every year in June. So we decided that when June came, I just wasn't going to go back to work the next school year because it was really clear that you needed me and you needed to be with me.
And we just tried to have Daddy start his work at home.
Well, no, that's when we were still living in New Jersey. And so we knew we needed to make a change so that I could stay home with you. So that's when Daddy started looking for jobs at camps, because he'd always thought about, going back to working at camps. And that's when he found the job at Vanderkamp. And so we sold our house in New Jersey. We moved from New Jersey to New York and went to Vanderkamp so that he had that job and I could be with you. That's what we did.
So how I felt, it was really weird actually, because I can still remember there was one day in specific where I dropped you off and you like cried so hard and just like looked at the door and you were so sad when I was leaving. And it was like, I felt sad for a second, but I tried to tell myself like, oh, he'll just like get over it eventually. Or, oh, he's just like a silly baby who doesn't understand. I was like trying to make all these excuses in my mind for doing something that I knew didn't feel very good. And it was also like tricky for me at the time because being a new parent for me was actually really hard. I was really used to just doing whatever I wanted all day, every day, because I was working from home and playing poker. And so at first, just parenting in general was really hard. And so I would tell myself stories like, well, I deserve more time to myself. Or, I would kind of prioritize my own feelings and just my own just desire for more free time. And that's kind of how I talked myself into it. But I think over time, you like were so persistent in trying to demonstrate for us, even though you were just a baby, that like wasn't right. And over time, I just realized, like, I snapped out of it and I was like, wait a second, like he understands what's going on here.
Yeah.
He knows that we're choosing to do this or something. And
I think we Daddy and I hit a point where we realized, wait a minute, we shouldn't be listening to like these messages that all of society is giving us that like, it's normal to bring your kid to daycare, even if your kid doesn't like it. We realized like we didn't...
It's normal, but it's bad.
Well, for us it was, right? For our family it wasn't working. And so when I think we had a moment where we finally realized we didn't have to keep trying to make our family fit this mold that we thought it was supposed to fit. Instead, if we simply listened to you and made some new choices to follow what you were telling us you needed, that it would be much more peaceful for our whole family. Yeah. And it was.
How did you really figure out how to stop telling yourself that?
I don't know. I think it just happened. I mean, I've always cared about kids a lot, for my camp work. And obviously I cared about...
Yeah, you have to really care about kids if you want to work at a camp.
Yeah, for sure. But when you came around, it was like different because I cared about you way more than I had ever cared about any kids before. But it was also such a big change to my life that I think it just took time to get used to. Like imagine your days now, like transitioning from that to having to spend... like say half of the time you were awake caring after someone else. Like at first it was just a big change. And I think eventually just my love for you was so strong that like it just felt more important than all that other stuff. Like I think I remember like actually being there one day and being like, wait a second, this is the most important thing I can do is to love and be loved by my kids. And that once I had that realization, like everything else felt like an easy decision.
And again, you just like didn't give up on trying to send us this message. So we appreciate your persistence because you taught us that there was a different way, for real.
Yeah, and there would be no One Free Family podcast if you weren't so persistent in those days. If you had just kind of like given up and went with the flow, we would have just done what we were planning to do, which is just what most people do, I guess. Parent you in very traditional ways, send you to school, whether you wanted to go or not. And that would have been our life.
Do you think that's how a lot of homeschooling families started it out? Or did they just at first decide, I don't want to send my kids to school?
Based on the families that I've talked to and people I've listened to talk and things I've read, I would say that very, very many families have somewhat of a similar experience to us, where they kind of like go into having kids planning to do the traditional thing, and then something in their life, makes them realize it's not working. And I actually know a lot of families too, who started by sending their kids to school, and then school just really wasn't working for their kids. And they realized that, I can take my kids out of school and we can try something different.
You didn't even wait for school, though. You didn't even have time for daycare, so we had to make our decision a little bit faster. Yeah. Any other questions you have for us before we close, Allie?
Well, this isn't really a question, but to me, it's crazy to me that that I ever went to any kind of school.
It wasn't really a school.
Do you mean like that you went somewhere away from us for most of the day?
When you didn't want to?
When I didn't want to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me that that's happened, because to me that's just something that doesn't happen in my life ever. I mean, it happens if I want it to happen.
Right.
But if I don't want it to happen, it won't happen.
Yeah, me and Daddy had really different ideas back then about how we wanted to be in relationship with you and how we wanted to, like, how much of an opinion we thought that you should have and that we should have about what happened in your days. We're in a very different place with that now, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is weird for you to think about that because you don't have a conscious memory of it, right?
I can't remember anything about
Right,
that.
you just know what we told you.
Remember it from you telling me.
Yeah, that must be weird.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for teaching us, Ollie. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
The least you could do. And it wound up making a much better life for you, too, I think. So, cool. All right.
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us, Ollie, our first ever guest. We were so glad to have you. Thank you for the hug,
That's the sound
too.
of a hug, everyone. Yeah.
That's the sound of Mom getting a really sweet hug. And as I always like to say at the end of our show, just remember that each moment is a new chance to be the parent that you want to be.
And as I always say, love you guys. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to One Free Family. If you enjoy the podcast, please show your support by becoming a patron at onefreefamily.com/support. Your support will help make this show better. Plus, you can get access to rewards and additional episodes by joining. Again, that's onefreefamily.com/support. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.